Welcome to Ecom Insiders Podcast. My name is Debbie, and this event is being sponsored by SPCTEK. Our guest today is John Aspinall. John is all about helping brands understand their customers better. At PickFu, he runs webinars, podcasts, and masterclasses just to show sellers how to use consumer research in order to make better decisions. He also creates funny and useful content, partners with industry pros, and stays active in the e-com community. The website is www.pickfu.com. He is designated as their brand evangelist. That's an interesting title there, John.
It sounds fancier and more evangelical than it really is. But
Well, today's topic, I think everyone will be interested in. It's Amazon's hero images best practices and A/B testing with consumer insights. I love this. So, share a few details about PickFu. What do you do?
yeah, so PickFu, a great question. And I always love when people spell out PickFu because the last two letters make it sound like, "Hey man, what'd you just say to me?" But you got to say PICKFU like really quickly because if you do PICKFU, it's like, "What'd you tell me?" PickFu is a consumer insight enterprise grade research tool that allows you to gain and tap into actual shoppers or anyone really of the 18 million people that we have in our network to gain insight and more data. So think of if you're launching a brand on Amazon, is this person going to want it before I launch it? Is if I'm launching a brand, is which logo is better, this one or this one? Is it better to show this or is it better to show this? When I'm creating UGC content or user generated content, is my audience going to resonate more with a female or more with a male or an older man or a younger man? So the PickFu takes out the what if, takes out the Vegas roll of the dice where you're like, let's just see what sticks, and if it wins, it wins, right? So what we're doing is we're putting data, or we're putting rather information in front of shoppers where they're able to decide. So think of this or that, traditional A or B, right? But it's also not A or B, but also open ended. So you can even put a URL to your Amazon PDP or your ASIN directly and say, if you're shopping on Amazon for supplements for your dog, would you buy this product? If not, why? So we're not seeing you versus a competitor. We're really getting that holistic look of your listing, and people that are saying, yes, I would, it looks great, or no, I wouldn't. You're missing this, or you're not saying this, or you're not saying that. And then you're taking that data and you're actioning on it. And you're able to put it in front of the right folks. So if I was, wanting to get more data on dog supplements, let's just stay on that for a second. I want to drill down to people that are dog owners. Cat owners are
Yeah,
great, but I don't want their feedback on my dog supplement because they might say, yeah, I'd buy it, but they're never going to buy it. Or if you
exactly.
have a more expensive item and then you have someone with maybe 0 to 30K a year income, oh, I love it, I would buy 5 of them, but they're not really going to. So
Mhm.
PickFu has over 90 plus traits and characteristics you're able to drill down. So you can get super granular with it and say, Amazon Prime members that are females, age 30 to 50, that make 100K or more a year, that they're a cat owner and they're a dog owner and they have 3 kids. So you're able to build out that avatar so it goes directly in front of the proper person.
So I did something kind of fun right before we got ready to do this. I went on to PickFu because you guys have this option on there where you can actually do like a quick mini survey of like 5 people. And I took a picture that was of a beaded bracelet that showed the whole beaded bracelet. And then I took a picture of a beaded bracelet that was a close up of the beads. And I put 2 pictures on there because I wanted to get some feedback from them. Now, I personally liked the one that was the picture of the close-up of the beads, because it's a natural stone and you wanted to see some of those elements and stuff. It was interesting because in my little test, um, younger people and males were more likely to like the full picture. People who were my age thought the same way I did, where they liked the closer up to so it was a small sampling, but I thought, how? I mean, it was really cool. It had the demographic feedback. I could look and see gender. I could look and see age. I could look and see education. So it gave me, I didn't set a bunch of things, obviously, on that.
But
But
it's
I,
interesting from your example, right? Because that data that you got, if you were selling that to younger men, then you'd want to change your opinion and table that for a
yes.
second and really cater and pander to the specific audience. And if your demographic was more in line with who you are, then you're right on the right track. And that's just reinforcing what you need to do.
Yeah, so I found it really fun. I was like, "Oh, I'm going to have some fun with this." So I went and found my picks and I tried it out, and I thought that's pretty interesting because I don't know that there are a lot of companies that allow you to do kind of A/B image testing for Amazon. I mean, advertising, we do A/B image testing all the time, but I
Yeah,
found it interesting from that perspective.
yeah, there's not that many, and out of the less than a handful that can do it, PickFu's been around for 10 plus years. It's you're not just segmented to just Amazon, which is out of that less than a handful. Those guys typically just do Amazon. With PickFu, you can do your website, your sales
Mm,
funnel landing page, your emails that go out to clients. So does this look better? Does this look better? Your, like I said, your logo. If you're creating a business from scratch and you're like, oh, I got some logos off of Fiverr, I think this looks good, but what's going to resonate with more people? It's really kind of like asking your friends and family, but on a bigger scale that is not biased and is going to give you the real feedback you need to hear.
yeah, I also liked the fact that you, with the service, can actually pick how large you want that sampling to be.
Yeah.
Now, how do you find the people who are on the back end who are actually looking at and responding to these surveys?
That's a great question. So we tap into a networks of 18 million panelists and respondents. So if you think for a second, I know we're just getting over an election year, but if you see on the TV or the news and that kind of stuff, well, 75% of Americans think blah, 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 blah. Or did you know 46% of US so those kind of numbers and statistics that is in the news and the media, they all come from the same network or pool that we're tapping into. So we're
Mm,
tapping into those networks. But the really cool thing about PickFu is that we're putting our layer of algorithm and software on top of it to mitigate and abate any sort of bad responses. So in without doing that, you're just getting, would you buy this or this? You'll get
mm,
people saying, I'll buy that. And they're not giving a meaningful response. So what PickFu does is we kick that out and keep running the poll until we get the meaningful response. Because
mm.
just saying I like this over this is great, right? But it's not giving you the actionable things that you need to do to pivot and move with your business.
Yeah, yeah, it was really, like I said, I know that was just an interesting part of what I found is that, the A/B testing and stuff like that. Let me ask you now, let's shift back again kind of to Amazon. The hero image or the main image. Why is that so important for the product listings?
So let's take a step back. So Debbie, when you're shopping on Amazon, is it
Hmm.
typically on your phone or a desktop?
Desktop for me.
Okay. When you type in something, whatever you're searching for, what's the first thing you look at when you scroll down the page?
Images.
There you go. That's exactly why it's the most important thing, because no one is shopping looking directly at the title, directly at the price, directly at the reviews. They are going to look at those things, but the first thing they're going to look at is the image. So, what they're going to do is they're going to look at the image, they're going to look at the price, they're going to look at the title, then they're going to look at the reviews. And there's a reason people do that. They're looking at the image to see, is this what I'm looking for? They're looking at the price to see, do I want to pay that? Then they're looking at the title to see, well, that's the image, that's the price. Okay, is it exactly what I need based on the title? And then they're looking at the reviews to say, should I pull the trigger on this? Yes or no. So when we're looking at that cycle, yes, everything that I said is super important to be optimized, your pricing, your reviews, your title, but it all starts with the image. And for a period of time, Amazon since changed this, but they were
Yes.
running tests where it was you can buy now from the SERP, which is the search engine result page. Right now,
Hmm.
they switched it back to add to cart from the SERP. But for a period of time, people were making sales directly on that search engine result page. So think of it like this: when you're on mobile and you're shopping and browsing, even on your desktop, the SERP, the search engine result page, is crowded. I don't care
Yeah.
what category you're in. There's tons of China direct competition, other US brand competition. It's important to look how you stand out in the landscape. I always talk about supplements because it's an easy kind of thing to optimize. But
Yeah.
if you look at like melatonin gummies, when you're looking at melatonin, it's a sea of purple. If you look at melatonin, anyone that's watching this, go type in melatonin gummies on Amazon. You'll be hit with so many purple because color psychology is a real thing, and
Yeah.
people associate sleep with purple, relaxing, tranquil. So how do you stand out on a sea of purple? Do you just put an orange color? Well, no, you don't want to do that because that's opposite of color psychology. That's more energy. So you don't want to just go polar opposite. But are there other color hues that we can work with that stand out from the syrup that still invoke that sleepy, tranquil kind of vibe? But then also looking to see, are those gummies showing the gummy on the outside? Are they showing the flavor next to it? Right? And especially if someone's running ads, I see this so many times where something has a scent or a flavor and it's
Mm.
not crystal clear from the main hero image that it has that scent or flavor. And some people think, oh, what's the big deal? They'll just click on it and they'll look at the image stack or the A plus and they'll figure it out. Well, it's a big deal because if you're running ads and paying for placement of said product and it's not monumentally clear that this is a lemon flavored gummy,
Hmm.
if you're paying for the ad and I click on it and I go down to the PDP and I see, oh, it's lemon flavored, ugh, I don't want that. They're going to leave. And now you're going to have wasted ad spend. Your ACOS
Yep.
goes up, your tacos goes up, everything goes up. When if you were to just show the flavor in the beginning, I would have never clicked it. And that's okay because I'm not going to be your customer regardless of how well you
Right.
merchandise because I don't want lemon flavored stuff.
Yeah, we have a client that has aloe vera in a lot of different things. And the difference when we switched over to putting the aloe on the outside beside made a huge difference because people could see, oh, it's from the aloe plant. And she uses live, I mean, well, whatever live plants are, but she
Well,
uses,
what you're saying is real photos, not like
yes,
cartoon or stylized graphics of plants, and that's
yes.
huge too. So, I see a lot of times people that have flavors or ingredients, and they try to stay on brand and make it very cartoony version of a flower or an aloe plant, and that's not going to resonate with people because people want to see it's natural, it's real. Like, never use stylized icons for
Mhm.
ingredients
That's
or
good.
flavors.
Yeah, so I mean, you're helping us to figure out how do we create that visually appealing hero image. Talk a little bit about some more colors and fonts. Should there be text on the hero? Give us a little bit more information there.
Yeah, so you should always have text on your hero image. A lot of folks will say, "Oh, Amazon says in their terms of service I can't do this and that." First off, Amazon says absolutely nothing in their terms of service about images. Anything with images is in image guidelines. Some people can say, well, image guidelines is a part of terms of service. It's not. The reason I know this is because if you do something that's against image guidelines, your account does not get banned or suspended. You get
Mm.
an image suppression that gets fixed within 2 minutes by reverting back to the old image. So when I say that, for example, if I was to sell a mouse, like this right here, is it best practice to just put the mouse and that's it? Or is it best practice to put the mouse with the box of the mouse, the packaging it comes with behind it, where on the box I'm very easily able to put, Bluetooth wireless mouse, and then any of the benefits on it extends up to 30 feet, works with three or four different, electronics, whatever it is. So anytime that you can, Amazon has done this a million times, even with their own brands, Amazon Basics, Amazon. I encourage anyone to go and take a look at Amazon's own in-house brands and see if they're following image guidelines because they're not. And this, a good metric to see is run through manager experiments, any kind of changes you want to make, or run it through any sort of ad if you're going to run an ad against it. If it's accepted for manager experiments or to be ran in an ad, it means it's going to be good to be accepted holistically and overall. So you want to have text exactly what the item is on a box behind it. Now, folks can be saying, well, John, I don't have a box. It ships in a poly bag. That's okay. Depending on the category, that's okay. And I say that for a reason. So, for example, if I'm selling a remote control and it just comes in a poly bag, well, I can put a brown box behind it and I can very easily edit in Canva or Photoshop. This is a LED Bluetooth remote control, um, batteries included, perfect for this and this, and put it on the box. No one is ever going to care when they get that item. Hey, where's my box that says remote control on it? That's never happened. I mean, I don't want to say never happened, but I've never heard of that happening. The only caveat is if you're selling something that's a luxury item or a giftable item, and you
Mm,
put a box behind it that isn't actually sent with it, that looks ornate with a giant bow and ribbons on it, if it's a giftable item where I'm going to give this to mom or dad or my kids, and then I would be a little bit upset over that, right?
yeah,
But the reason why you want to do that is to, again, from people looking at image, they could see, oh, this is a remote control for this. Ah, okay. Versus just a remote control floating in the ether. But the other thing is Amazon's AI is changing every single day.
yeah,
Amazon's Rufus and Cosmo and whatever else kind of terminology they have inside there, it's been proven that they can read images. So they can read text in images. So it's only a matter of time, if it's not already happening now, that the text that's on there is going to play a certain part in the SEO, the algorithm, Rufus search, all that kind of stuff. So it would behoove any brand to be doing that.
yeah. So colors, talk a little bit more about colors.
Yeah, color psychology is huge, right? So, like I said, with like the melatonin gummies, don't do orange, don't do yellow, don't do that kind of stuff. So, there's charts out there called color wheels where you can see like, you know, emotion attached to which color, and then even complementary colors for text. So, a lot of times I'll see people that have, a white product, but then they'll put the text on it be yellow. That's no one's going to be able to read that, right? So
Right.
it would be better if you did black, or it'd be better if you did a darker color, right? So also font and size, right? So sometimes people put like post edit tags on the side of their product, but if the text isn't big enough, when people are shopping on mobile, they're not going to be able to read it. And if they're not
Mm,
able to read it, the whole idea of you putting that tag is out the window, right? So
yeah.
color is huge, text is huge, everything like that really has to be done meaningful. And I encourage people, when you're building something in Canva or Photoshop and it looks great on your big screen, zoom out like 20x. Make it where it's the size of how it would be on an Amazon screen. If it still looks great and you can read everything that needs to be read, go ahead. But if you can't, you need to fix it.
Now, what about branding elements in the hero image? Are they important?
So, yes and no. Yes, that you want to have your brand or your logo somewhere on your packaging of your product. But remember, I'm shopping on Amazon because I have a problem and I'm looking for a solution. I don't have a problem and I'm looking for a brand to then go for the solution. A lot of brands think who they are, I think, on Amazon, where it's like, we're monsters in the space. We're Apple, we're Nike, we're this and that. When I'm shopping for Apple and Nike, I want Apple and Nike. I don't care about what anything else. I'm going specifically for those brands. But when we're talking about melatonin gummies, when we're talking about box cutters or scissors, when we're talking about utilitarian stuff, branding is secondary, right? You
Yeah,
still want to be a brand. You have to be a brand. You have to have a brand store. You have to, even if you're a commoditized item, you can still do well on Amazon by having a better brand and a better packaging. But Paramount, I see too many brands focusing on, you know, John Stationery and then, 5-inch scissors. Like what? Like I'm here for the scissors. I'm not here for John Stationery. If I have a good experience, I'll come back for John Stationery, but I
yeah.
came for the scissors.
I have conversations with clients all the time about if you think about, if you just look around yourself where you're at, how many of the things that you see did you actually buy because you knew the brand? We
Very,
have
very,
things that
very
are
few. Yeah,
very few. We
usually,
mostly live in a brandless world.
yeah, it's true. The only time I'm brand loyal is for electronics and anything I consume like drink, and eat. That's the only time when I'm brand loyal, meaning, and that's just me. I always buy Apple products. If it's not an Apple product, it's an Logitech product, right?
Yeah.
Um, and if it's consumable, I'm not going to roll the dice with like some newfound soda that came out there. I'm going to buy Coke, right? But now
Yeah.
when we're talking about zip ties and faucet, pieces or drainers or even cookware, I'm sure there's
Yeah.
highfalutin expensive cookware out there. I just need to make my kids some mac and cheese. So I don't care too much about that. There's other people that do, but for the most part, you're right. Everything you look around, like the desk I'm using right now, I couldn't even tell you the brand name of the desk that's sitting over here. But is it a good desk? Yes. But it was a great price. It fits its need. But I will never be like, hey, Debbie, John's Desks is the desk to buy. I have no idea.
Now, can sellers also use that hero image to kind of create a sense of urgency or scarcity?
No. So
Okay.
never put anything in your hero image that says buy now, limited time only, limited edition. Don't do that kind of stuff because that's not, no one's buying because of that, right? If anything, it looks like a cash grab. And
Hmm.
that's something that's going to really teeter on image guidelines. You'll probably get a suppression for something like that.
So we really want to focus on key benefits.
Yeah, it's always benefits over features. And I think that's the biggest problem with a lot of brands. They think that their features are better than benefits. So I'll give you an example. If I'm buying a blender, a lot of blender companies will say 2.5 horsepower motor, 32 blade carbine tips, whatever this kind of stuff. What is that 2.5 motor? That's a feature. What's the benefit? The benefit is crush ice in seconds. That's the benefit. So that's what you want to talk about. 2.5 horsepower motor means nothing. Crushes ice in seconds. That's phenomenal. When we say carbine blade 32, whatever, can blend an entire zucchini without cutting it. Whatever it is. See what
Yeah.
I'm saying is focus on what those features do to benefit people and talk about the benefits, not the features. Because no one in their right mind, I say right mind because there's a lot of people out there, have ever said, oh my God, this is a 2.5 horsepower blender. I need this.
And it's probably not the keywords that they use to search on.
It's not. It's not.
Yeah.
People are searching on problem. Like when you look at your title and look at your image, think about the problem someone has with your product, right? That you're solving. So if I was selling, I don't know, markers, right? No, markers for schools and kids. What's a problem that people have with markers? They dry out, they
Hmm.
bleed. Those are probably two big things with markers. They bleed when you write with them and they dry out. If your product fixes that, your title should say, no dry out or dry out free, non bleeding through paper markers. And then you'd want to have call
Right.
outs on your marker pack that says, dry out with an X through it with a red X, say, hey, we don't dry out, and bleed proof or whatever it is.
So now we've gone through everything. We've kind of discovered color themes and we know what our benefits are. How do we test different hero images in order to determine which one will be the best provider?
Yeah, so I actually just was recording something for PickFu for our channel, where I used a glucosamine supplement for older dogs. And I showed how I took the main image and I put it in Canva and I made 5 different versions of that same main image. So I added, it was just a bottle with nothing there. So the first iteration, I put the bottle, I put the tablets on the outside. That's it. The third image, I kept the bottle with the tablets, and then I added "Made in the USA." That's it. Then the fourth image, I kept the tablet, the bottle, the "Made in USA," and then I added a post edit to the cap, 600 milligrams of glucosamine. Then I went to the next version, I kept all that, and then I added another element, and I added a dog behind the bottle. And then I had all my iterations, including my original one. Then I headed over to the gold standard of A/B testing, which is PickFu, and then I loaded up a ranked poll. A ranked poll is not head to head A or B; it's taking up to 8 options, and then people are polling which they
Mm.
deem the best. I ran that against 30 respondents because it was just a test, right? I ran it against 30 respondents, and I said, if you were shopping on Amazon for dog supplements for your dog, which of these main images would compel you the most and why? And the audience I picked was Amazon Prime members and dog owners. That's it. I didn't drill down any further. And the original one got 2 votes. And the one that I iterated, which is the last one with all the elements in it,
Yeah,
got, I think, about 19 votes.
yeah,
And the funny thing is that product does about $3 million a month just on that one listing on Amazon. So what does that mean? A product that does $3 million a month, if they just make a better main hero image and their CTR was to increase only by 0.2% and their
yeah.
conversion stayed the same, how many more hundreds of thousands of dollars are they making just on that change?
I would say that I love the idea of being able to test different options and find out. I would guess in some cases, if you put made in America and then you didn't put it made in America, that could also make a huge difference in how many people pick it and stuff.
Yeah, especially for stuff that's consumable, like
Mm,
supplements, vitamins, or anything kind of food that you eat. People There's a lot of good stuff that comes from China. Everything on my desk probably came from China, right? But do I necessarily want to have supplements that came from China? Probably not. I would want something from the US through different rigorous testing and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not knocking China by any way, mean
no,
or form, but I think it's important for a lot of folks to understand where it's coming from, and that same methodology doesn't apply. Like you would never put made in China with a Chinese flag on something. Like that's not something you
right.
scream from the rooftops. Even though it's 90% of the stuff we own. But I always tell people, if it's not made in the US, where is it made? Because if it's made, the analogy I give people, if there is a US sold car company that's in the States that comes from that area, you can feel good in putting the sticker on it. So, example, Mercedes is Germany. So, if you have something made in Germany, that's something you should call out. Something's made in Korea. Hyundais are made in Korea. You
Yeah.
could put the Korean flag and say made in Korea, especially things like Korean skincare. There's a
Mm.
huge demand for that. So, if it's a US car company that is associated with that country, then you could put that on your packaging.
Okay, well, that makes great sense there. Um, so now you talked about a couple of different types of testing. You talked about what was the one that you did where you had 30 people?
Yeah, so that's a ranked poll. So that's
Okay.
more than two options against each other. So when it's two options, it's a head-to-head poll. When it's 3 to 8, that's a ranked poll. So they're putting them in order of which they want first. There's open-ended polls where I can just put one option and then you give me your feedback. And that one option could be a photo, a link to a web page or an Amazon product. It could be a video, anything like that, where you just want open-ended kind of stuff. And then we
Yeah,
also we also have our click test, right? So click test is super powerful because you could take a screenshot of the search engine result page on Amazon and you can load that into PickFu. And if your product is over here and your competitors are all around you, you can say, hey, if you were shopping on Amazon for a pet supplement, where would be the first place you would click to purchase and why? And then you'll get a heat map of all dots popping up to see where people are going. And if you're finding you're not getting any clicks and your
mm,
competitors are, you can highlight and see why are they getting those clicks, and it's because they show this, it's because they show that, all that kind of stuff.
yeah, I think the one thing that did impress me most when I did kind of my little pick through food thing was that I am getting actual feedback. It's not just somebody clicking. You're actually asking them to tell you why did you pick this one over this one, and you're getting that feedback. And the fact that you said if they don't give you feedback, that's not part of that's huge to me
Yeah,
because
we kick that out because that's data, but that's not actionable data.
yeah, I think that for people to actually, like you said, we all have a propensity a little bit to think people think like I do, you
Yeah,
know?
I
People
do.
might
my
not think
my
like I
my,
do at all.
my wife does too. My wife does it all the time. She's like, oh, if you don't think like me, what's wrong with you? But that's just us in New York, right? But
But we all do. We all have that propensity to think, oh, most people. feel like I do about this and stuff. So it was really interesting. I knew when I put those two images up there that the way I felt was probably not the way the majority was going to feel. I knew that. Okay. But I knew the way that I felt was because of years of buying natural stone jewelry. I had a very specific thing I was looking for.
Yeah.
And
A lot of folks that have that, we find a lot of folks that are inventors of products are
mm,
the biggest culprit of that. Because if you invent something from scratch, that's your baby. And
uh,
you're surrounded in it 24/7 and you know all the ins and outs, then you put it out there and you don't clearly explain it to me who doesn't know your baby, and then they're sitting there like, Don't you understand, this does this, I made it to do this, I fixed it to do this, it's going to do." No, I don't understand it, I'm not surrounded by this 24/7. So inventors and creators are the biggest culprits of kind of getting in their own way.
oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. Now, also, we've talked about images, but does PickFu also help with titles and different things like that?
Yeah, so you can run titles in there, A or B, which one's more compelling, this or that. My biggest thing, Debbie, is where can I get the best ROI of my time and money?
Mm-hmm.
And text and images, I'm sorry, text and titles is not going to be the biggest lift. it's
Right.
it's going to
Okay.
be it's going to be images. You can test what sounds better, but for titles and stuff it's better to run it through like Helium 10 or Jungle Scout or Data Dive or Smart Scout to see for SEO purposes, right? With
Yes.
the title and
Yes.
bullet points, it's really, I don't really care how it looks. It's really more for ranking. So I'm not, I wouldn't want someone to run a PickFu and say, oh, this person likes how this looks better, but in reality it wouldn't perform as well based on SEO. Does that make sense?
Mm. Okay. What else could you tell us, or do you think that we really need to be advised about when it comes to just images and what we can do to advance our click-through rate?
So the first thing you want to do is, are you making enough money on Amazon? The answer is no. No one's ever happy with where they're at right now. So take a look at the landscape on Amazon through a keyword search. Just search on Amazon. Who's your competition? And what are they doing? Are they doing something different than what you're doing right now? If they are, you need to test that. You need to test and see how we can do better, what we can do, what are things we can do, what are things we can't do. And the most powerful thing too is not just afterwards. I see so many people that, let's say they do melatonin gummies. Let's say they do it in raspberry flavor. And then they're making a killing and they're doing best practices. But then they're like, "Oh, great. I'm going to come up with a vitamin C gummy, and I'm going to
Mhm.
come up with a flavor. It is to be orange flavor. It's going to be apple flavor. It's going to be blueberry flavor. I'm going to come up with all these flavors. Hang on. Do you know if people that are shopping for these gummies want blueberry or do they want grape or do they, you don't know, right? So it's a great way to test even before you come up with your next
Mm.
iteration of if people even want that flavor or scent or color. Because I don't know about where you are, but there's a place here called Dollar Tree, and
Yeah.
there's Five Below. Five Below is a big one. I don't know if you have that over there.
Yeah, we
Where,
do too.
so everything in Five Below is like $5 or less. But when you walk in, there's all like brand name stuff. And it's like, how is this so cheap? But when you go and look at it, for example, I was in there maybe a couple of months ago. They had a Marvel action figure from Hasbro, which is normally in the stores like $19 for an action figure. And I was like, wow, this is a great price. Why is it so cheap? And then when I looked at it, I realized the whole display was of one character who was a very obscure character in the movie. And it was a loss leader for Hasbro, and they couldn't sell it at the regular price in the Targets and Walmarts. So they had this surplus of inventory. So what they do, they liquidated it for pennies on the dollar to, Five Below so that they can sell it for $5 and move it out. Same thing with like Rockstar Energy Drink in Dollar Tree. I was in there last week. They have a giant pallet right in the middle, and Rockstar Energy is not expensive, but it's not a dollar, right? It's usually
Right.
like $2 or $3. They had a giant pallet in the middle of like Java, chocolate, coconut, something, and you can just tell. I instantly went on Amazon to go and see Rockstar, and they're killing it. They're crushing it at their regular MSRP for every other flavor, but that one flavor wasn't on Amazon anymore. It's because it didn't do well, and they really didn't do consumer insight research, or maybe they did. I don't know. I could be just guessing, but it sounds like they didn't really do the due diligence of the data analysis before launching the flavor.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that, John, that especially when you're wanting to really expand the brand,
Yeah,
if you don't do some of that research in advance, it's going to bring the whole brand down,
it's
you
true. I
know?
mean, you don't. Here's the thing, especially if you're sourcing from China, do you want to gamble with a
Mhm.
20-foot container from China that takes 6 to 8 weeks to come over? That's costing you tens of thousands of dollars. How painful is that? I tell
Yeah.
people all the time, yeah, people say, I don't want to spend a couple $100 testing on PickFu. It's a waste of time and money. There are people that say that, right? And I
Yeah.
say, cool. What's more painful? A couple $100 now or tens of thousands of dollars later?
Yeah, and the truth is, most people who are selling on Amazon don't have the ability, say Marvel has, to go out and just discount it and at least find somebody who will take it on a closeout,
Nope.
right?
You're gonna have
You
to you're gonna have
kicked
to
it all in.
liquidate it. You're gonna have to liquidate it at a painful discounted
Yeah.
price because you're not gonna let it sit in Amazon FBA and rack up
Nope.
long-term storage fees and all that kind of stuff. So you're gonna get hit either way with pain, and it's not a fun thing to do.
Yeah, I've told people before when it comes to FBA and they're like have something that's not selling. I'm like, we need to slash it. We need to do it now. And they're like, I just can't. I just can't. And I said, you need to think about what the value you have is now versus what it is costing you.
Yeah.
Sell it. Sell it if it's, you know. But
And that also if you're a bigger brand, you also have to look at the residual kind of thing that happens after that
mhm,
where you're publicly being shown as a failure, right?
yeah,
If you're discounting this one item that's not moving super heavily and you're liquidating it, that doesn't bode well on your branding overall. Like it for any savvy person, they know like you kind of screwed up with this one and you're just liquidating it.
yeah, exactly. Well, I really want to thank you. We told you at the very beginning that the website is PickFu.com. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today at Ecom Insiders. This is sponsored by SPCTEK, our guest speaker, John Aspinall. If you have any questions, leave them below in the comment fields. And if you enjoyed today's section, yes, please subscribe so that you can get future editions. And John, you said you guys have something on YouTube as well, right?
Yeah, you can just go head over to YouTube, type in PickFu. I do pretty frequently every week. I do ASIN teardowns and I give best practices. If you're an agency in this space and you want to get certified with PickFu as an agency, we run agency webinars once a month on best practices, all that kind of fun stuff.
All right. Thank you, everyone, again for joining us. Thank you, John, for being here.
Thanks, Debbie.
Bye.